Breaking news, a critical test in the criminal cases against two of President Trump's biggest political foes. A federal judge in Virginia just heard arguments in a bid from James Comey and Letitia James to disqualify prosecutor Lindsay Halligan. Their attorneys argue Halligan was handpicked by President Trump and is serving as interim U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia unlawfully.
And joining us now, CNN's crime and justice correspondent, Caitlin Polans. Just getting out of the courtroom. Caitlin, you were inside. You listened to all those arguments. So what happened during the hearing?
Well, Wolf and Pam, I was listening very closely to how Judge Cameron McGowan Curry was going to handle this hearing. And she's a laid-back questioner, a very concise questioner. But boy, it was a grilling of the Justice Department, if I have ever seen one before from a judge like this. What Judge Curry asked, her very last question of the the Justice Department, do you believe U.S. v. Trump was wrongly decided? That's a very telling question because the Trump defense team, when Donald Trump was a criminal defendant, he had won his case by having the prosecutor Jack Smith tossed off of it in Florida in a set of arguments very similar to this. And Judge Curry is now asking the Justice Department, are you guys against that now as the Justice Department wanting these cases against James Comey and Letitia James to go forward? The Justice Department lawyer responded, that's a different thing. That was a different situation that doesn't apply here. But that was quite a question that elicited gasps across the courtroom from a lot of people that were listening to this hearing. The other thing that Judge Curry did is she really dug in to some of the moves the Attorney General had made in this case to stand up and back Lindsay Halligan, the Eastern District of Virginia U.S. Attorney, who's there sent by Donald Trump on an interim basis. The bigger picture of this case is about, has it been too long without a Senate-confirmed person in this job? Judge Curry asked some questions of that, but she had even more questions for the Justice Department, even a back and forth on whether or not it was needed for the Attorney General to send an order into court. And she pointed out that the Attorney General said in a statement to the court in an order she signed on October 31st, she had read all of the grand jury transcripts in this case. The judge went back and forth with that Justice Department attorney saying that's not even possible, and some of them are missing. Wolf and Pam. Oh, one more thing. She's going to be ruling by Thanksgiving, so a judge acting very quickly here.
Okay, thanks so much, Caitlin Polans. Let's bring in former federal prosecutor Elise Adamson. So Elise, who heard Caitlin really lay it out there, Comey's attorney argued the case against the former FBI director suffers from a, quote, fundamental defect. Can you explain that argument?
Yes. So what Comey and James are arguing is that Lindsay Halligan was never lawfully appointed and that she lacked the authority to bring the indictments in the first place, that, essentially a private citizen walked into the grand jury and returned these indictments, and thus they can't proceed. They simply can't proceed because they weren't properly brought. I think an interesting distinguishing factor between James and Comey is that the statute of limitations has now run on James Comey's cases. So if the judge rules in James and Comey's favor and ultimately agrees that Halligan was unlawfully appointed and dismisses the case, it is likely that the Comey case won't come back, although Letitia James's case has not exceeded this.
Imagine waking up to find the most powerful person in your country wants you in jail, not because you broke the law, but because you made them angry, because you stood up to them. This isn't a movie. This is happening right now in America. Inside the Department of Justice, prosecutors are resigning. Career lawyers who've served for decades are walking away. Why? Because they're being asked to prosecute innocent people just because the president doesn't like them. This is the story of how revenge replaced justice, how the system that protects all Americans is being turned into a weapon. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this matters to every single American, including you. Let's begin. Part 1, the prosecutors who said no. Down in Florida, something strange was happening at the Department of Justice. Two young prosecutors walked into work one day. Their boss asked them to do something. We don't know exactly what, but whatever it was made these lawyers so uncomfortable that they quit their jobs. Think about that. These weren't lazy people. These were career prosecutors who went to law school and dedicated their lives to justice. They had bills to pay, families to feed. They quit anyway. Why would someone throw away their career like that? The man in charge is James Comey. Trump picked him personally. Jason was building a huge case going back almost 10 years to 2016. He was trying to connect the Russia investigation, Mueller investigation, Jack Smith investigations, all of it. But here's the thing, other investigators already looked at all this stuff. When they already did their jobs, they already made their decisions. So why go back? Why dig up closed investigations? Because Trump wanted revenge. Trump believes all these investigations were a giant conspiracy against him. He thinks people in the Obama and Biden administrations, FBI agents, intelligence officers, all plotted to destroy him. Now, you might agree or disagree with Trump. That's not the point. The point is, even if Trump is right, you can't just arrest people because you're angry. That's not how justice works in America. You need evidence, real evidence. You need to prove laws were broken. When Jason asked his prosecutors to help, at least 2 looked at what they were being asked to do and said, no way, this could violate our ethical responsibilities. So they walked out, but Jason didn't stop, he couldn't. Trump was watching. Trump was demanding results. Trump wanted arrests. Jason called a meeting with about 30 lawyers from his office. He needed to calm them down because prosecutors were on pins and needles. They were afraid they'd be next, afraid they'd have to choose between their jobs and their consciences. Jason's office sent out more than 30 subpoenas asking for documents from 2016 and 2017. That was 9 years ago. Here's the problem. There are statutes of limitations, laws that say you can't prosecute someone after a certain time. For most federal crimes, you've got about 5 years. After that, the window closes. So why ask for documents from 9 years ago? The subpoenas asked about the intelligence community assessment on Russian interference in 2016. Guess who already investigated this? John Durham. He was a special counsel who spent years looking into this. He wrote a final report in 2023. What did he find? Nothing. No crimes. He didn't even criticize the report. But Trump's Justice Department is investigating again anyway. Here's something weird. Usually the prosecutor working the case signs subpoenas, but the number 3 person in the office, a boss, signed these instead. Why would a leader sign these? Maybe because the regular prosecutors refused. Maybe they said, this isn't right and I'm not putting my name on it. This was all happening in Florida, but up in Virginia, an even bigger storm was brewing. The target, James Comey, one of the most famous law enforcement officials in American history. What did Trump want to do to Comey, and why were Virginia prosecutors resigning? We reveal the shocking answer in part 2. But first, make sure you've liked and subscribed. Part 2, the fall of James Comey. Let's talk about James Comey. Comey was FBI director. He's 6'8", tall. He worked for the government for decades. Everyone respected him for being honest and doing the right thing even when it was hard. But in 2016, when Trump was running against Hillary Clinton, Comey reopened an investigation into Clinton's emails. He announced it publicly right before the election. Many think that announcement cost Hillary the election. So at first, Trump was happy with Comey. But then Trump became president and things got complicated. The FBI was investigating whether Trump's campaign had ties to Russia. Trump wanted it to stop. He wanted Comey to make it go away. Comey wouldn't do it. So in 2017, Trump fired him. After getting fired, Comey became a thorn in Trump's side. He wrote a book, gave interviews, went on TV. He said Trump acts like a mob boss. Trump hated this. For years, Trump talked about how Comey should be investigated, arrested, jailed, until September 2025. That's when James Comey was indicted. A grand jury charged him with lying to Congress and obstruction of justice. The charges relate to testimony Comey gave in 2020 about whether he authorized leaks to the press. Comey said he didn't. Prosecutors say that's not true, but here's the problem. It's how this indictment happened, and Yuho made it happen. In Virginia, there was a U.S. attorney named Eric Siebert. He was a Republican. Trump appointed him. He was supposed to investigate Trump's enemies. Trump wanted Siebert to bring charges against Comey and Letitia James, the New York Attorney General who won a fraud case against Trump. But Siebert looked at the evidence and concluded there wasn't enough to charge these people with crimes. He couldn't do it, not because he liked them, but because the evidence wasn't there. Siebert could have caved. He could have brought charges to make Trump happy, but he didn't. He stood firm. He said no. Trump was furious. On Friday, a reporter asked if Trump would fire Siebert. Trump said, "Yeah, I want him out. Yeah." That same day, Siebert told his staff he was stepping down. The next day, Saturday, Trump went on Truth Social and wrote a post to Attorney General Pam Bondi. In all caps, he demanded charges against Comey, Letitia James, and Adam Schiff. He wrote, "Comey is guilty as hell, and justice must be served now." Think about that. The president posting on social media, declaring someone guilty before any trial, before any judge looked at the case. That's not how America is supposed to work. Trump needed someone who would bring charges, someone loyal, someone who wouldn't say no. Enter Lindsay Halligan. She used to be Trump's personal defense lawyer. She worked for Trump. She was loyal to him. Here's the crazy part. Lindsay Halligan had never been a prosecutor before. Never. Her most recent job, helping Trump remove improper ideology from Smithsonian museums. She was sworn in on Monday, just 3 days after Siebert was pushed out. And 3 more days later, James Comey was indicted. Let's think about this timeline. Siebert says not enough evidence. Friday, Trump pushes Siebert out. Friday, Trump demands charges. Saturday, Halligan sworn in. Monday, Comey indicted. Thursday 1 week. From we can't charge him to he's charged. What changed? Did new evidence appear? No. The only thing that changed was the person in charge. When Halligan presented the case to the grand jury, she did it alone, even though she had no prosecuting experience, even though she'd never presented to a grand jury before. Career prosecutors didn't want anything to do with it. Sources say Halligan did crash course training. She practiced for hours with Justice Department lawyers. And even then, the grand jury initially didn't want to indict Comey. They said no, but Halligan kept them there all afternoon. She kept presenting. She kept pushing. Finally, by just 2 votes, she got an indictment. 2 votes. That's how close Comey came to not being charged. The grand jury was asked to consider 3 charges. They only approved 2. Even after being kept there all afternoon, they rejected 1 charge. Here's another detail. Comey's son-in-law worked as a prosecutor in that same office. Troy Edwards was a senior national security prosecutor. On the day Comey was indicted, Troy Edwards resigned. He wrote, "To uphold my oath to the Constitution and country, I hereby resign." His own son-in-law quit rather than be part of this. But it gets worse. There's a conspiracy theory in Florida that could lead to arresting former presidents. Want to know who's on Trump's target list? We reveal the shocking names in part 3. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Part 3, the conspiracy theory that could jail presidents. Let's go back to that Florida investigation. Remember Jason Kenyon and those 30 subpoenas? That investigation is part of something much bigger, much scarier. It's based on a conspiracy theory Trump has talked about for years. The theory, starting in 2016 and continuing for 8 years, people in the Obama and Biden administrations worked together to destroy Trump. Intelligence officers, FBI agents, Justice Department officials all joined forces in a massive conspiracy. According to this theory, everything that happened to Trump was planned. The Russia investigation, part of the conspiracy. Mueller investigation, part of it. Jack Smith investigation, all part of one giant plot. Trump isn't talking about low-level staffers. He's talking about people at the very top. President Barack Obama, President Joe Biden, James Clapper, Director of National Intelligence, John Brennan, CIA Director, Hillary Clinton. Trump has publicly said these people should be arrested. He's been explicit. He's used their names. He's demanded action. And in Florida, prosecutors are trying to build a case to make that happen. Think about what that means. Prosecuting former presidents, jailing some of the highest-ranking officials in American history. This has never happened in America before. Presidents have been criticized, voted out, unpopular, but prosecuted, jailed. That's what happens in other countries. Countries without strong democracies. Countries where whoever wins uses the justice system to punish opponents. Countries we used to look down on. The Florida prosecutors are on pins and needles. They're afraid. They know that soon Jason might call them and say, "We need you to work on the Obama case." What are they supposed to do? Say yes and violate everything they believe in? Say no and lose their jobs like Siebert? Legal experts say this looks like selective prosecution or vindictive prosecution. Selective prosecution means charging someone because of WHO they are, not what they did. Vindictive prosecution means charging someone for revenge. Both are illegal. Both violate the Constitution, but they're very hard to prove. You have to show the prosecution is done for wrong reasons. Usually prosecutors hide their real motives, but Trump isn't hiding anything. He's announcing it. He's posting on social media. He's saying out loud, I want these people arrested because they went after me. That might actually help people like Comey fight their cases, because proving vindictive prosecution just got easier when the president is literally posting, "This person is guilty as hell," before any trial. One former federal judge said, "It's clearly vindictive, it's clearly his enemies list." Another expert said, "They're picking their guy and then trying to find something they can charge him with, versus investigating the facts and deciding whether charges are appropriate." That's backwards. That's not how justice works. You're supposed to see a crime, investigate it, find who did it, and then charge them. You're not supposed to pick someone you don't like and then go looking for crimes. But that's exactly what's happening, and it's not just targets who are affected. It's prosecutors themselves, the ones being asked to do this work. Some are walking away, some are protesting quietly, some are keeping their heads down and hoping they don't get called on. Even judges are affected. There are reports that some judges, even Reagan-appointed judges, are considering stepping down. They don't want to preside over cases that feel like political hit jobs. One expert put it, "Imagine being a defense attorney filing motions in front of one of these judges. At that point, you've got a bit of a banana republic. A banana republic. That's what we call countries where law doesn't matter, where power is all that counts. Is that what America is becoming? Here's another twist. Those Florida subpoenas are going to Fort Pierce, Florida. That area has only one federal judge, Aileen Cannon. Judge Cannon presided over Trump's classified documents case at Mar-a-Lago. She dismissed the whole case, saying the special counsel wasn't properly appointed. Legal experts were stunned. Most said her ruling made no sense. And now any grand jury investigation in Fort Pierce would come before Judge Cannon again. Coincidence or careful planning? But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Trump's been appointing judges, and 15 Democratic senators have been helping him. Why? And how are these judges different from any we've seen? The answer in part 4 will make your blood boil. Part 4, the judges who can't tell the truth. Let's talk about judges. When someone becomes a federal judge, it's a lifetime appointment. Once you get the job, you have it until you retire or die. You can't be fired or voted out. Why? Because judges need to be independent. They need to make decisions based on law, not politics. They need to rule against powerful people without fear. That's the theory. But what if judges aren't independent? What if they're chosen because they're loyal to the president? That's what's happening now. Trump has been appointing federal judges across the country, lots of them, and these aren't normal appointments. Usually, when someone is nominated to be a judge, senators ask questions to make sure the person is qualified and fair. But Trump's nominees have been asked a question that should be simple. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? The answer is yes. He lost. Joe Biden won. This isn't opinion, it's fact. Biden got more votes. Biden won the Electoral College. Biden became president. There were recounts, audits, dozens of court cases. Trump's own attorney general said no widespread fraud. Trump's own lawyers couldn't find evidence. Even Trump-appointed judges ruled against him. Trump lost. That's reality. But when Trump's judicial nominees are asked this question, they won't answer. They dodge. They say things like, "I don't want to comment on political matters," or "That's not relevant to my qualifications." They can't just say, "Yes, Trump lost the 2020 election." Why not? Because they know if they say that, Trump won't appoint them, so they pretend. They act like it's complicated, but it's not complicated. It's simple. Trump lost. Yet these nominees can't say it, because saying it would be disloyal, and Trump demands loyalty above everything. One expert put it, these are serious people who went to prestigious law schools, and they can't answer that the sky is blue to please Trump and get on a bench. The sky is blue. Trump lost. These are facts. But in Trump's world, facts don't matter. Loyalty matters. These are lifetime appointments. These judges will make decisions for 20, 30, maybe 40 years. Think about being James Comey, charged with a crime, going before a judge who had to pledge loyalty to Trump to get their job. Do you think you'll get a fair trial? Here's what's frustrating. Trump can't do this alone. He nominates judges, but the Senate confirms them. Senators vote yes or no. Democrats could stop these appointments. They could say, "No, we're not confirming judges who won't acknowledge basic facts." But that's not what's happening. 15 Democratic senators have been voting to confirm these judges. 15 Democrats, giving lifetime appointments to people who won't say Trump lost the election. Why? Some say they're being bipartisan. They don't want to be obstructionist. But this isn't about being bipartisan. This is about protecting the justice system. When judges have to pledge loyalty to get jobs, when they deny reality to get appointed, they have no business on the federal bench. Josh Orton, president of Demand Justice, said, "In 20 years, these senators will look back and realize they helped Trump pack the courts with loyalists. They helped create a system where justice depends on politics, and they won't be able to undo it." Some compare this to Mitch McConnell with the Supreme Court. McConnell blocked Obama's nominee completely, then rushed through 3 Trump justices. It was ruthless but effective. Where's the Democratic version of Mitch McConnell? Where's the leader who will say absolutely not? We're not confirming anyone who can't tell the truth. That leader doesn't exist. Instead, 15 Democrats are voting yes, helping Trump pack the courts. And for what? Nothing. Trump isn't cooperating. He isn't compromising. He's still attacking Democrats. He's still demanding prosecutions. These Democrats are giving away lifetime judicial appointments and getting nothing back. Justice should be blind. Lady Justice wears a blindfold because she's supposed to treat everyone equally. But these new judges aren't blind. They're looking right at Trump. They're loyal to him first, justice second. If this pattern continues, in a few years, the entire federal court system could be filled with judges who owe their jobs to Trump. But there's one case that proves how insane this has become. What happened to Comey in that Virginia grand jury room will shock you. The full story is in Part 5, our final part. Part 5, the grand jury room and the future. Let's go back to that Thursday in September 2025. Lindsay Halligan, Trump's former personal lawyer, who'd been U.S. attorney for exactly 4 days, stood before a grand jury in Alexandria, Virginia. She'd never done this before, never presented a case to a grand jury, but she'd practiced. She'd done crash courses. She'd gone through materials over and over. She presented the case against James Comey. She showed evidence. She explained what she thought Comey did wrong. She asked them to indict him on 3 charges. Grand juries are supposed to be secret, but details leaked out. What happened is stunning. The grand jury voted. They said no. They returned a no bill. That's when a grand jury refuses to indict someone. Halligan presented everything, and the grand jury said, nope, we don't think this deserves charges. But Halligan didn't accept that. She kept them there all afternoon for hours. She kept presenting. She kept arguing. She kept pushing. Finally, after hours, the grand jury changed their minds. By just 2 votes, they agreed to indict Comey, but even then, they only approved 2 of the 3 charges. The third one, they still said no. When Comey's lawyers found out, they were furious. They filed papers saying the evidence is tainted. They're saying Halligan essentially held the grand jury hostage, that she badgered them until they gave her what she wanted. They're asking the judge to dismiss the charges. Will it work? We don't know yet, but here's what we do know. This case has already accomplished something for Comey. It's proven his point. Comey has been saying for years that Trump is dangerous, that Trump doesn't respect the rule of law, that Trump will use his power to go after enemies. And now Trump is doing exactly that. He's proving Comey right. Trump publicly demanded Comey's prosecution. He posted that Comey is guilty as hell. He pushed out one U.S. attorney who wouldn't bring charges and replaced him with someone who would. It's all out in the open. Trump is openly using the Justice Department as a weapon. And it's not just Comey. Letitia James is being prosecuted. Adam Schiff is under investigation. Now, John Bolton might be charged soon. All have one thing in common. They opposed Trump. They criticized him. They held him accountable. And now they're all facing criminal charges. Meanwhile, people who support Trump get the opposite treatment. People who committed crimes in his name are pardoned. People who lied for him are protected. It's a 2-tier system. If you're loyal to Trump, the law doesn't apply. If you're against Trump, the law becomes a weapon. This isn't speculation. This is happening now. In plain sight, legal experts are sounding alarms. One said, this attorney general sent a memo on day 1 that Justice Department lawyers were the president's lawyers. That's not how it works. Justice Department lawyers aren't supposed to work for the president personally. They're supposed to work for all Americans. They're supposed to uphold the law, not serve one man. But that's changed. The memo said it. You work for Trump now. Even Nixon wasn't as open about this. Nixon tried to hide it. Nixon pretended to respect the system. Trump doesn't pretend. He brags about it. He announces it. He celebrates it. One professor said, you have a president who is openly, brazenly bragging about his ability to seek retribution against his political enemies. So what happens now? The cases will move forward. Comey will fight his charges. Letitia Letitia James will fight hers. But even if they win, even if judges throw out the charges, the damage is done. Because fighting costs money, millions of dollars. Comey hired Patrick Fitzgerald, one of the best lawyers in America. Fitzgerald used to charge $2,000 an hour. Now he's probably working for less because he believes in the case. But not everyone has friends like that. Not everyone can afford million-dollar legal bills. Even if you're innocent, even if you win, the process itself is punishment. You lose years of your life. You spend all your money. You live under constant stress. Some people will be scared away. They'll think, I could speak out, but look what happened to Comey. I can't risk it. That's how you silence opposition. Not by winning in court, but by making the fight so expensive and painful that people won't try. Career prosecutors are leaving. The ones who believe in justice, who take their oaths seriously, who won't compromise, they're walking away. And who's replacing them? Loyalists. People who do what they're told. People who care more about pleasing Trump than following the law. In a few years, the entire Justice Department could be filled with people like Lindsay Halligan, people with no experience but plenty of loyalty. Then what? Then who stops the next wave of prosecutions? Then who says no when Trump demands more arrests? Nobody, because everyone who would say no will be gone. This is how democracies die, not with tanks in streets, not with soldiers at the Capitol, but slowly, as institutions that protect us get hollowed out from inside. Courts get packed with loyalists. Justice Department becomes a political weapon. Prosecutors who won't play ball get pushed out. You end up where justice depends on politics, where your rights depend on whether the president likes you, where speaking out against power means risking everything. Some say, this is just politics now, but it's not. It shouldn't be. In America, we're supposed to be better. We're supposed to have a system where no one is above the law. Not the president, not his friends, not his enemies, nobody. We're supposed to have justice that's blind, justice that treats everyone equally. But that system is under attack right now, and the people attacking it aren't hiding. They're in the White House, they're in the Justice Department, they're announcing their intentions on social media. The question is, what are we gonna do about it? Some prosecutors are resigning. Some judges are considering stepping down. Some lawyers are taking these cases for free because they believe it's that important. But what about regular Americans? Do we pay attention? Do we care? Do we understand what's at stake? Or do we scroll past, change the channel, assume someone else will fix it? Because if we don't stop this now, it's going to get worse. Today it's Comey and Letitia James. Tomorrow it could be journalists, protesters, anyone who stands up and says, this isn't right. It could be you. Trump called for prosecuting former presidents. He's talking about arresting Obama and Biden. If former presidents aren't safe, if the highest officials can be prosecuted just for being Trump's enemies, then nobody's safe. The only protection we have is the law. The Constitution, the principle that power has limits. But those things only work if people enforce them, if judges uphold them, if prosecutors respect them, if senators defend them. Right now, too many are failing us. Judges who won't admit Trump lost. Prosecutors who bring charges because the president demands it. Senators who confirm loyalists to lifetime positions. They're all part of the problem, but we can hold them accountable. We can vote. We can protest. We can make noise. We can support organizations fighting back. We can demand better from elected officials. We can refuse to accept this as normal because it's not normal. It's not okay. And if we let it become normal, we've lost something precious. We've lost the America we thought we had. The America where justice matters, where truth matters, where no one, not even the president, can turn the law into a weapon. That America still exists, but it's under attack, and whether it survives depends on what we do next. So that's the story, how revenge replaced justice, how loyalty became more important than truth. How the system meant to protect all of us is being turned into a weapon. It's scary, but it's real. It's happening right now. If this video opened your eyes, if it made you think, made you angry, or determined to do something, then share it. Let others know. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment below, and let me know what you think, because the more people who understand what's happening, the harder it will be for them to get away with it. Justice should be blind. Let's fight to keep it that way. Thanks for watching. Remember, in America, no one should be above the law, but also no one should have the law used against them just because someone powerful doesn't like them. That's not justice. That's revenge. And we're better than that, or at least we should be.